Morning. Welcome to News from the Roots on Mountain Stream TV. It's Wednesday, September 13th, 2017. I'm Avram Friedman, and this morning I have Ron Arps with us, and we'll be talking a little bit about contra dancing and maybe a little bit about gardening.
We always get into that, don't we?
But first, let me just go over the program we have for today on Mountain Stream TV. After News from the Roots at 10 o'clock, we'll be watching a documentary about the Women's March in Asheville that took place in January, right after Trump's inauguration. It was a magnificent 10,000-person march or more, and some interesting speakers. And the issues that were raised were poignant, and this was an interesting documentary. It lasted about an hour and 20 minutes, and the march was just amazing. Then at 11:20 a.m. we'll be watching a report I did on Standing Rock last November. I went up there for a couple of days to observe what was going on, and it was cold, I can tell you that. It was like 17 degrees outside, and the wind was blowing about 40 miles an hour. I had so much admiration for the people that withstood those conditions and to stand up the way they did. This was just a few days before the veterans showed up in thousands to stand in between the police and the peaceful demonstrators, and it changed the whole dynamics of that event. I mean, it's hard to call it an event. It was a stand, I guess, to prevent the completion of the construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline. And then at 12:15, Robert Itis, you know Robert, don't you? He's the president of the Ginseng and Golden Seal Foundation in North Carolina.
Right, yep, I know him.
And he did a report on CBDs, which are the chemicals that are being derived from the cannabis, from certain cannabis plants that are being intensely studied by the medical community right now for their benefits in treating cancer and other diseases. And so CBDs have gone through a revolution in terms of being legalized in most states around the country. And so he did a report on the progress of the legal status of CBDs nationwide, and that report will be on at 12:15. At 12:50. We have a recording of a speech given by Paul Cienfuegos, who spoke in Asheville. This is actually from 2016. He spoke very eloquently on how communities can regain control of their community. This is a big issue in Asheville because the state has taken away its the power of Asheville to control its own water supply. And of course, we remember the HB2 issue in which the state stepped in and prevented Charlotte from passing its own so-called bathroom law, which would allow transgender people to use whichever bathroom they choose. And so this has become a big issue, not only in North Carolina, but nationwide, about local communities controlling their own laws and regulations. And so Paul Cienfuegos will be speaking about that at 12:50. Then at 2:05 p.m. we have a documentary about the Moral Monday that took place in Silva in 2016 when the NAACP organized, and Reverend Barber came to speak on that day. Reverend William Barber is the president of the statewide NAACP, and he's currently leaving North Carolina NAACP to take a position in the national organization. He'll be taking over the position that Martin Luther King Jr. Actually was in charge of when he was assassinated, and that position has not been refilled until today. That was the position of addressing poverty in the United States. So anyway, we'll get a chance at 2 o'clock to watch the Reverend Barber speak, and many other people speak. It was a very, again, poignant demonstration. There's some good music involved in this as well, and so tune in at 2:05 to watch that. And then at 4:25, we'll be watching a documentary about the Fight for 15. This is a campaign that's going on nationwide to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And this was a gathering that took place last year in Richmond, Virginia, in front of the Robert E. Lee Monument in downtown Richmond, Virginia. And again, Reverend Barber was at this, but there were people from all over the country, and I don't know, there were many thousands of people that participated. It was fascinating and very powerful march. Okay, that's our agenda for today. So thanks for coming in today, Ron.
You're welcome.
And speaking with us. So tell us about the Contra dance in Silva, and if you will, give us a little bit of history about that. What Contra dancing is, and when you started doing this in Silva.
Okay. I started dancing, I think, in the mid-'80s, although I always say I don't remember anything about history. So dates are something that I don't usually remember correctly if I do. Anyway, I mostly started dancing in Asheville at the Old Farmers Ball, which is probably the longest running contra dance in the country. And it was being held in this old decrepit building near Warren Wilson College, and has moved to Warren Wilson since then. And then the dance here in Silva, it started back when the old Silva School was still here, which was probably in the 80s sometime. And
you mean the high school in Mark Washington Park?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. At that time, I think they had just refurbished it to some extent to be sort of like a theater. And
kudzu players were playing.
Yeah. And Newton Smith got some airline seats, I think.
Oh, yeah. I remember those seats.
Anyway, Kathy Rose Henson was living here, and she and Nanette Davidson started a dance there. And I didn't actually get involved then, but they're the ones who actually started the Silva dance. And then it's gone through a lot.
This was back in the 1980s, right?
Yeah. Maybe even the late 70s, I don't know. I moved here in 1976, and I don't know. Anyway, the first dance that I went to was out at Western. It was in Brees Gym, and it was called the Odd Friday Ball. It was sort of a continuation of this thing. Nanette was still doing it. And Kathy had been invited, my wife, Kathy, had been invited to play in the band. She plays fiddle. And the band was called the Oddball Band. And so she said, oh, sure, and she said, come on, Ron, you'll enjoy this. And I thought, right. But anyway, I did go, and I did enjoy it, and ever since then I have been an avid contra dancer, although I have this theory about dancing that if you're over 40 and you're just starting, it's really hard to actually learn how to do it. And untested and unproven, definitely. But anyway, I was like 39 and a half.
So
I barely
time was ripe.
Sneaked in under the wire.
That's funny. And to be clear, Kathy, you say she plays fiddle, but she's actually a concert violinist, right? And who teaches violin.
Right. She's actually a violist.
Ah.
That's her concert instrument. But she teaches Suzuki violin here in Silva, and plays in the Western North Carolina Civic Orchestra that is sort of based at Western and has a couple concerts a year. And so that's the only orchestra she still plays in. But she used to play in the Asheville Symphony and several other symphonies around the area.
So tell us, what is contra dancing?
Okay.
Yeah.
Contra dancing is actually pretty similar to square dancing. You probably remember in grade school, and when PE you had square dancing and did do-si-dos and swings and stars and stuff like that. The difference is that instead of 4 couples dancing together in a square formation, in contra dancing people line up in long lines, and so it's called a long way set, and 2 couples dance together through this whole series of moves and 1 repetition of the music. And then the way the dances are written, 1 couple will move down the set and 1 couple moves up the set, and you meet another couple and repeat the whole series of moves. So I think it's much more active than square dancing, because you're always dancing, and in square dancing sometimes 2 people are dancing and the other 2 are just waiting for their part. So there's a lot more activity in contra dancing, and it's really very aerobic because you're always moving, and each dance will last about maybe 10 minutes. So during that time, the only time you stop moving is when you get to the top of the set or the bottom of the set, and wait out 1 time, and then go back in to start dancing again. So, kind of hard to describe, for me to describe what actually is going on, but I think you could get the idea that maybe a dance would start with these 4 people circling all the way around to the left, and then you might do-si-do with your neighbor, the person who would be next to you in line, and then maybe swing that person. And then there's a thing called a ladies' chain, where the ladies trade sides, and then you might swing the other person. You would swing your partner at that point, and so those moves just use up a whole piece of music. The music is old-time Appalachian music, or maybe some New England style Celtic music, or it could even be something more modern. We danced to something recently that was a Prince song. And
that's funny.
Yeah, I thought so too. But anyway, the dancers really enjoyed that. It was something different. So you use up this whole piece of music, and the dances are all written so that the moves fit with the music, and so there'll be an A part and then a B part, and then you move on to the next couple and repeat all that again.
So like, this has become a big cultural event. I mean, this is not a small thing. I mean, if you go to Asheville, there are several venues that do contra dancing regularly. I mean, they have a schedule. I know at Warren Wilson, I think at the Gray Eagle there's one.
Yeah, the Gray Eagle isn't going anymore.
Oh, it's not?
But there's a replacement for it.
Oh, okay. So, but there's a lot of people, and I've gone to Warren Wilson a couple of times, and to the Gray Eagle, and when it was there, and the place is packed. I mean, hundreds of people are doing this. Where did this tradition come from? Where is contra dancing? Where did it originate?
Well, it all goes back to English dancing. Like, if you've seen the Jane Austen movies, they do English country dancing, and that's sort of a more formal kind of dancing than contra dancing is. And then there's Irish and Scottish set dancing, and all of that is sort of the basis of contra dancing. And nobody really knows definitively where contra dancing actually started.
Is contra because it's two lines contra against each other, or is it a way of saying country?
Both of those are theories that different people put out there.
Okay.
Yeah. There really isn't anything that anybody has said, this is absolutely the origin. But the people who came over from England and settled here, brought this kind of dancing with them, and they used to have like house dances, or you'd go to somebody's farm and they would have an outdoor space, or they would take all the furniture out of the kitchen and people would dance. There'd usually be a fiddler or some other kind of musician and somebody who would call a dance. So that it, kept going in New England mostly, and probably down here too, the Southern Appalachians, where we have the same Scots-Irish influence. And people are always dancing, so, down here, it was more the circle dances there's Kentucky running sets, I guess, is what one of the historians called it, where you have a big circle and two couples dance with each other and then they move around the circle. So that's the Appalachian style rather than the long set like New England. But then it almost died out, and I think it was like in the early 1900s or something when people actually started to revive country dancing in New England. And then from New England it spread through the whole country, and now there are dances in all the major cities and some little places like Silva.
Yeah.
And so you can go anywhere in the country probably, and there'll be a contra dance pretty close by.
No, that's great.
Kathy and I, when we go on vacation, we go to the Country Dance and Song Society website, and they have a list of all the dances all over the country, and we...
What's that website?
Country Dance and Song Society.
.com?
Well, it's actually cdss.org.
.org, okay.
And they're kind of an umbrella organization that provides information and resources to dancers and helps them with their be organized as 501c3 sort of educational organizations, I guess it is. And just as a general resource for dancers all over the country. And it's actually not just contra dancing, it's like, I forgot what they call it.
Folk dancing.
Yeah, well, different kinds of folk dancing and ritual dancing, I guess.
Ritual dancing?
Right, Irish dancing and Morris dancing and the Garland dancers. If you go out to Brasstown, to the John C. Campbell Folk School, they have groups of people there who do these really traditional, dances. And women usually are called the Garland dancers, and they sometimes have these big hoops of flowers that are part of their dance. And then the Morris dancing is usually men who dress up in white and have bells on their legs, and they wave handkerchiefs around and do all kinds of jumping around and stuff. So there are these kind of dances also that the Country Dance and Song Society supports.
Well, I mean that's fascinating that this tradition just keeps going on, and people are picking up on it now. I mean, it seems like a great way for people in the community to get together. I remember when we first, I don't know if you remember this or if you were there, but when I built my house in Dillsboro, before we put the interior walls in, we had a big open space, and we invited Jan and Annette to do a contra dance.
Oh, really?
In that house, which we did. That was how we kind of brought our house into the world and into the community at that time. And it was great.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll a memory I'll always remember.
Yeah, I don't remember that, but
yeah.
But contra dancing is really a big community, actually.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most important parts about it. You know, it's for me, it's sort of like my main community of people that I associate with. And dancers are really great people, I've found. One of the things that happened during the course of my history with contra dancing is that I started actually leading a tour group of contra dancers to go to New Zealand and tour around the South Island of New Zealand and put on dances and, you know, teach people about contra dancing. And I don't think I would ever have the nerve to be a tour leader for any group of people except contra dancing.
Except contra dancing.
Because they're, well...
And you've gone there a number of times, didn't you?
Yes, we actually, Kathy and I actually organized 7 tours.
Wow.
We would go every other year, so, you know, it was over a period of about 14, 15 years that we did these tours. And in a way, we call it our missionary trip, because we really loved contra dancing and wanted to share the joy of it with people. And so we decided the best way to do that was to get a group of people who knew how to contra dance, and the musicians and the callers, and go over and be sort of an example, and then invite people to join us in dancing and, you know, share all the joy that we get out of it with other people. And then those people, you know, some of them really enjoyed it also, and they started their own dances. And so now there are, I think, 5 or 6 ongoing contra dances in New Zealand.
In New Zealand, all right. And
yeah.
Just on the southern island, or did you...
No, there are a couple on the North Island.
Oh, okay.
I think there's one in Auckland, but I'm not actually sure about that. And I know there's one in Wellington. And then on the South Island in Nelson, which is at the very north of the island, and Christchurch, which is on the east side, and Dunedin, which is down near the bottom on the east side, and well, I guess that's all there.
Pretty good missionary work.
Yeah.
And I know you recently went up to Quebec City, in that area. Was that also for contra dancing?
It was mostly a long camping trip.
Oh.
We started out by going to a dance weekend near Quebec City. And that's another thing that dancers can go to is these dance weekends that are organized by the groups who have ongoing dances around the country. And so you join, you know, anywhere from 150 to maybe 400 people for the weekend, and dance Friday night, and then there are workshops during the day on Saturday, and then Saturday night there's usually there's always a big dance, and then Sunday morning there's usually like an hour or so of waltzing, and then a farewell contra dance.
I know the ones that I've been to here and in Asheville have been really high times. The energy is just amazing at these places. I haven't been able to participate so much. I broke my leg in 2012, and that makes it a little bit difficult for me to dance.
Yeah.
But although I may get back into it, I'm trying to strengthen that up a little bit. But But I mean, I would recommend anybody to go and enjoy, be part of these dance sessions. Where in Silva do you hold them, and when?
The dance in Silva is at the Sneaky Squirrel.
No, it's right across the street from the studio. Yeah.
John Duncan somehow got it into his head to want to have a contra dance there, and it's used to be a car dealership, so there was a lot of space available. And he called me up and said they wanted to have a contra dance, so I went over and talked to him, and we worked it all out. And I happen to have a wooden dance floor that I could loan them or give to them. I'm not sure exactly how that is set up right now.
This is like a wooden slat floor that you unroll or something?
No, it's made out of high-density particle board at Vantech. And we made it so that we could have a dance in the Bridge Park Pavilion.
Okay.
And, I put up a sign at the farmers market and asked for people to make donations to pay for a wood floor that we could put in the pavilion after that got built. And amazingly enough, people would give me $10 or $20, and I think I might have gotten $800 or something altogether.
And that paid for it?
It did.
How big is the floor?
I think it's 28 by 32.
All right.
Which it's fairly small. We could probably, ideally, we would have maybe 32 dancers would be great on a floor like that size. And so that would be 2 lines of 4 groups of 4 dancers in each line. And that'd be great. But anyway, we put up this floor at the Sneaky Squirrel in a storeroom that they have. It's very unusual, I guess you would say, for a contra dance venue.
Is that where it's held in the building next to the restaurant, sort of?
Yes.
It's not outside.
When we first started out, it was summer, so we put the floor up outside. They have a big overhanging part of the building where they used to have cars on display and all. And we put it out there, and one time during the summer we had this terrific rainstorm with a lot of wind, and it just totally flooded the whole floor. So we moved the dance inside for that night, but then when it got cold, we moved it into the interior. And
is that a heated space?
It is a heated space.
Okay.
And it's not air conditioned.
Right. That could be different.
Right. So it's good in the winter and not so good in the summer. But that's where it is now, and they weren't going to move the floor again because the floor weighs 2,400 pounds, and it's all interlocking and.
It's one piece that, I mean, how do you move
it? It's 3 foot by 4 foot sections.
Oh, that shouldn't be too hard to move.
No, it's not too hard to move, but it's kind of complicated because of the way it's interlocking and all. And then because of the weather changes and all, and probably that big flood had a lot to do with it. It got to be uneven, and so then they've screwed down all the corners and everything. So it would be quite a job to move it again.
Okay.
But we have it in this storeroom, and it's every other week. So this coming Friday night, actually, is when there's going to be a dance there. It starts at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
And
Friday night,
right. And it's on the Sneaky Squirrel website, on their calendar. So, if anybody wants to find out when the next one is, it's there. And so it's a little hard to keep track of because it's every other week. Some months there are 3 dances, and some months there are 2. And so you're never quite sure unless you check the calendar. And the way a dance works is all the dances are taught. You don't have to know a thing when you walk in the door, except how to walk. There's no fancy footwork or anything. You know, it's just plain walking around in circles and up and down the line and stuff like that. And we don't have a beginner's workshop at this particular dance because it's only a 2-hour dance, and so
you learn as you go.
You learn as you go. That's right. So there's a caller, and the caller will get people to line up and get organized.
And you're the caller very often.
Well, I am this Friday, and sometimes maybe once every 2 months, I guess I call. I'd much rather dance than call, but sometimes it's hard to find somebody else who come from Asheville or Brasstown, or and so the Sneaky Squirrel has been a great sponsor for this dance because they provide the space, and they also provide a stipend for the caller. So that really is helpful because it's a free dance. We don't charge admission because that expense is taken care of. We do ask people to make a donation if they can for a couple of the musicians who travel from Asheville to lead the band. That's totally voluntary.
Have you had a good turnout?
It varies. Sometimes we have 6 dancers, and sometimes we have 25 or 30.
Well, maybe this will help it grow a little bit. And
well, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, when you walk in the door, everybody is very warm and friendly and helpful about people learning how to dance, and the caller will, get everybody lined up the way they're supposed to be, and then go through the dance very slowly at first and teach things that people might need to know, like how to do a swing or a ladies' chain where the ladies go across the hall and do a turn with the men and stuff like that. But it's all taught, and you walk through it a couple times, and then the next time it'll be dance to music, and the caller will still be saying, do-si-do, and everybody will do-si-do, and then ladies chain, and so there's always cueing for what the next thing to do is, but then it's done to the music, and we have live musicians. There's usually a fiddle and a guitar or banjo, and sometimes hammered dulcimer. It's an open band that we have these 2 guys from Asheville now who lead the band, but anybody who plays an instrument is welcome to come.
Oh, okay.
And the repertoire is things that a lot of people who do old-time music would be familiar with, like Soldier's Joy or Ragtime Annie, stuff like that. And sometimes, like when Kathy was the lead fiddler, she would have sheet music that people could read. But these guys are really familiar with a lot of tunes, and so while the caller is teaching the dancers how to do the dance, the band is finding a couple of tunes that they'll play for this like 10-minute segment of dancing. And so then when the music and the dancers get going, the caller tells the dancers what to do, and they go through about like 8 kinds of figures in each dance. And then, like I said before, the one couple moves up and one moves down the line, and you get to another couple, and you repeat those same figures. So you get a lot of practice.
Yeah.
And the dance will go on for maybe 10 minutes. It could be like 15 repetitions of the music or something like that. And then that dance will end, and at the Silva dance we do a lot of socializing between dances. So people will stand around and talk and can
Now
go.
the Sneaky Squirrel, you can have a beer
Right,
probably
that's right.
if you want to,
Yeah.
or get something to eat.
And I recommend their French fries.
Yeah.
They're really good.
And the
French
IPC
fries.
beer is excellent.
I agree with you, Avram.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that citrus.
Yeah.
taste it has. It's very light and
Yeah,
citrusy.
that's my favorite. That's
It
what I
is.
get. We have the Occupied group. Occupied WNC meets at the Sneaky Squirrel also.
Oh,
It's
really?
becoming a community center of sorts. And
Yeah.
it's great with it. They're doing a good thing at the Sneaky Squirrel. And this is, contra dancing is like going to a great high energy party,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And yeah, you don't have to feel self-conscious if you've never danced like this before, because there are other people there that have never danced before also, and it's very
Right.
simple, and it's just fun. It's
It
just
is.
fun.
Yeah. Well, it is, basically it's very fun. That's the reason that we have dances,
Mhm.
you know, for everybody to come out and have fun. And if you're coming in never having done it before,
Mhm.
there's obviously a learning curve.
Right.
But the people who have done it before are very helpful about, you know, getting people maybe in the right place or
Mhm.
explaining how to do something. And like I said, the caller is always telling what to do. And so it doesn't matter if you make a mistake.
Right.
You know, we're just out there to have fun. And a lot of times, the most fun that we have is when people get mixed up.
There's a lot of laughter that
That's
happens.
right.
Yeah.
Yep. And well, there have been many times that I've gone to the dance and come home thinking, oh, my smiling muscles are so tired because I've been smiling all night. You know.
That's something that most of us can't say a lot of time. Our smiling muscles are tired. But it's something
Right.
we should say more. That's great.
And well, another aspect of contra dancing is that there's a lot of eye contact, and for me, that's really one of the most important things about it. It's very seldom in modern life that you can actually, you know, look somebody in the eye for 10 seconds, really. I mean, that really seems like a long time during a swing. And there's all kinds of eye contact in the other moves because people are cooperating with each other. And so, you know, like if you're switching from one group of dancers, you know, right in the transition to start the repetition of figures over again, you know, if you're looking up or down the line, you make eye contact with that next person so that, you know, okay, this is, you know, where we need to get together and coordinate. And the whole thing is just very cooperative.
That's so important, you know, because many of us, if not all of us, spend so much time looking at computers
That's right.
these days, and we really don't have that personal contact with people, and especially eye contact, where you're making a connection with people. And that's so interesting because I know that in your past lifetime that you had, you were very much into computers. In fact, you started a business at Western Carolina University. You were one of the first people who got into computers, and you had bought several computers that the public could use and
Right.
walk in. And what made you get out of that? What brought you into this realm of existence, which is diametrically opposed to that in some ways?
Well, I was actually doing both at the same time. So I think, you know, maybe they were sort of compensating for each other or something. I don't know. But yeah, I did all that computer stuff for, I don't know, 15 to 20 years, I guess.
Yeah, you were an early computer guru around here.
Yeah. Yeah, I set up that business out at Western thinking that, you know, it would be sort of like a computer lab because Western didn't have anything at the time.
This was back in the late 80s, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, the Macintoshes had just come out, and I was really, you know, fascinated by the Macs, and I bought 5 of them, I guess, in a laser printer, and
which was a big investment at that time.
Yeah, it was like $6,000 for a laser printer, and it weighed a ton. And
but the computers weren't cheap either. I mean, those Macs were,
Right, yeah. And so, my idea was that people would come in and learn how to use Excel or Word or something and type their papers and, do that. It didn't end up that way, of course.
I came in a few times to play chess against the computer.
And not very many people came in to use the computers, but they brought their papers in for my staff to type.
Ah, okay.
And we had these big philosophical discussions about, well, should we use the spell checker to correct their typing or their spelling, or should we leave the misspelled words in the papers? And,
that's an interesting question, right? Yeah, back then.
Yeah. So anyway, but then I transitioned into more doing bookkeeping and income tax, and definitely was using the computer to do all that stuff. But contra dancing is a whole lot more fun.
Yeah. Indeed.
So,
yeah.
But I don't know. Sort of. I guess to do a little recap here. The most important thing about contra dancing is having fun, and then there's all this aspect about community. To have this group of people who you just feel really comfortable with, and like to go associate. In a way, it's like going to church. You have a group of people who share your joy about something and like to get together.
It's a revival.
Right. Yeah. And then there's like the physical contact with other people and the eye contact. And then at some point or other, I really have felt like there's sort of a universal connection with the kind of the movement and the music and the energy that everybody is generating, and being so cooperative, doing the same thing at the same time. And I don't know, something. If you really get into a dance weekend, say, and you've been dancing all weekend, you just kind of get into this zone or something like that, and feel like sort of a total oneness with all the people there.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of things about it that I definitely recommend and encourage people to give it a try.
Yeah, I hope that folks watching this will do that. And we'll be, of course, what we do here on Mountain Stream TV is we record these programs live, but then we repeatedly show them. So this isn't the only chance that people will have to see it. And we archive them so that you can go to the website, the Mountain Stream TV website, look up the archives, and view any of the interviews we do here. So hopefully we will get the word out about this a little bit anyway.
That'd be great.
And that'll be, yeah.
And, there's some other ways that people can get information about contra dancing, too. I really recommend going to the Atlanta Dance website, and it's the Chattahoochee Country Dancers, and I can never remember how to spell Chattahoochee. So if you are interested in seeing what a dance looks like, they have a lot of videos at that website, and just Google Atlanta Contra, and the Chattahoochee Country Dancers website will come up.
Maybe we'll come by and video record one.
Well, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And so at that website, there are a lot of videos of actual dances, and so you can watch the dancers and hear the music and the calling in the background, and really get an idea of what a dance looks like. And then they also have an instructional section where they'll show how to do a lady's chain or a hay, or these different things that people do in the dances.
Oh, very cool. And
there are all kinds of other. If you go to YouTube and just as for Contra, you'll get hundreds of dances.
Really?
So, it's all there, like everything else.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
sure. Oh, that's wonderful. All right.
And actually, there was a documentary made about a year ago. A student at Western made a documentary. They came to the Sneaky Squirrel and filmed some of the dances and interviewed the caller for that night and me, and made a documentary that was at this Chaos Festival that they had.
Let me get a pen and write down his name. Do you know his name?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. I'll look it up, and maybe if we can find out. Is already available on YouTube?
I don't know if that's on YouTube or not.
Maybe we can air it on
that'd be
Stream
great.
TV. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the film department at Western would have it.
Okay.
People went one time I was at the farmers market and people kept coming up to me and saying, "Oh, I saw you on this documentary at Western last night," and I thought, "Oh, okay." But they actually did, make this documentary about contra dancing and had it shown at this Chaos Festival that they had in the spring, I guess it was, last year. And I just never have remembered to call them up and ask them, if they'd send me a copy or whatever.
Okay.
But if you could get it, that would be great.
I will try.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, there's a lot of videos and information about dancing. Weekends to go all over the country and go to Alaska. There's a great weekend in St. Croix every spring. That's actually a week, I'm sorry. That's a whole week of dancing. So during the day you can go out and, snorkel or scuba dive or whatever you would do in St. Croix. And
great way to plan a vacation. You could go hop from one part of the country to the next going contra dancing.
You could.
Yeah.
Yep. And then actually the Country Dance and Song Society has dance camps in the summer. They have a whole series of camps in Pinewoods Camp. It's near Plymouth in Massachusetts.
Okay.
And there's English dancing, there's ritual dancing, there's contra dancing, there's old-time music, or I guess I should say early music. It's not old-time, it's more the old English and medieval kind of music. And so people go there for a week, and it's a great place to go.
All right. So, is there somebody? Can people contact you if they want to learn more?
Sure. About
what the schedule is, and where is the schedule posted somewhere on the internet or?
Oh, at the Sneaky Squirrel website.
Just at the Sneaky Squirrel website. You did say that, yeah. For
the Silva dance.
Okay.
Yeah. And there are dances in Asheville. There's a Monday night dance. It used to be at the Grey Eagle, but now it's moved to St. George's Episcopal Church, the Center for Art and the Spirit in Malvern Hills. It's just off, I guess it's the Smoky Mountain Parkway, is it?
That's 74 is the Smoky Mountain Parkway.
Yeah, well, it's, if you know where the Goodwill store is.
Oh, yes, you mean up on Patton, if you continue up Patton Avenue on West Asheville.
Yeah.
Up near where Lowe's is in that area.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's, I think it's Bear Creek Road. Anyway, there's a big sign there that says Malvern Hills.
Okay.
And right on the corner is a church. And then if you go past that a little bit and veer to the right, there's another church, which is St. George's.
Okay. And right on Patton Avenue?
Well, right.
Okay.
And it's on Monday night from 7:30 to 10:30. And then there's the Old Farmers Ball, which is at Warren Wilson College on Thursday night. Starts at 8 o'clock.
Every Thursday night.
Right. And the Old Farmers Ball has a website, oldfarmersball.com.
Okay.
And they have a schedule there of all the dances. in Asheville and the surrounding areas. There's a dance twice a month in Jonesboro, Tennessee. There's dancing in Greenville, or Taylor's, I guess, South Carolina, and Marietta, South Carolina, and Atlanta, and...
Is anything in Hendersonville?
No, no.
And you mentioned Brasstown. Do they have them regularly?
They do. They're twice a month.
At the John C. Campbell.
Right, John C. Campbell Folk School.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to consult their calendar. They had one last Saturday night, so it would be 2 weeks. And then their fall festival is coming up, and they have a big dance on Saturday night of the fall festival. That's the first weekend in October.
And anything happening at Western in terms of?
No, there isn't.
Oh, okay. So there's a vacuum there that needs to be filled, obviously.
Well, we would love to have students from Western come to the contra dance.
That's
here.
true. It's pretty close.
I have a hard time getting advertising out over there. Maybe some of them will be watching this program.
Yeah. Well, we hope so.
All
right. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. And this has been enlightening, and I hope that we help get the word out. And once again, so this coming Friday at the Sneaky Squirrel?
At the Sneaky Squirrel at 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock Friday night at the Sneaky Squirrel, and I hope a lot of people come out and join you.
You don't have to know anything except how to walk in the door.
Right. That's great. Well, thanks, Ron.
Thank you,
Okay.
Avram. It's been great.
Yeah.